Welcome again to Stick at Night. I'm your freeholder, Anthony Romano, representing the cities of Hoboken and Jersey City. And with us tonight is people that I'm glad to hear what they have to say because of my involvement in law enforcement. And I'm proud to say a dear friend of mine who has won many accolades in the Italian-American community, the Dante Alighieri, the Police Society, Deputy Attorney General Janet Bosi, and with her Detective James Gallo. Welcome to the show, and start off, tell us a little bit about yourselves,
Sure.
Janet.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you for everything you said, and thank you so much for having us on the show. It's really an honor. We've known each other for a very long time, and I've always admired your work in the community as a public servant. I don't think there's few people that have done as much as you have done, especially for the county. Background about me, as you know, I'm originally from New Jersey. I grew up in Bergen County. I moved to Hudson County in 1998 when I moved here from Boston. I was going to Boston University, and I moved here to go to Seton Hall Law School. I graduated from law school in 2001, and I went to go work at a large New Jersey firm, and I was in private practice for about 7 years or so, and I enjoyed the work tremendously. I was doing general commercial litigation, and I enjoyed working with my clients, my colleagues, the type of work I was doing. However, in 2006, I had a family emergency. I think, as you know, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. It was a very quick-moving cancer. He passed away within 3 months. So at that time, I decided to take some time off. And I used that time in 2006, 2007, really as a period of reflection, and I decided I wanted to do more community service, have a job that was much more meaningful. And I was fortunate to be given the opportunity to work at the Division of Criminal Justice, which is part of the Office of the Attorney General. At that time, I went to the Financial and Computer Crimes Bureau, which is where I still am, where Jim is, and I've been there almost 10 years now. As part of that, in the last 2 years, there was an initiative that came about that both Jim and I were invited to be a part of, which I think is very unique. I think it's unique to New Jersey. It's an anti-money laundering task force, and it puts together the state, the local counties, the local cities and municipalities together to work to combat money laundering activity. So it does that by using trainings, sharing information across the state. So it's a wonderful platform for combating money laundering in the state. And that's really where the genesis of some of the trainings that we do, first in money laundering and then in different types of fraud that we're going to be speaking about today, come from.
Wow, what a background. Everybody goes to Seton Hall Law. It's like it's a own great entity.
It is. It has a huge
Just went to the
following.
Seton Hall game the other night. Okay. Jim, tell us about you.
Sure, just a quick overview of myself. Well, first off, let me thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to get our message out there to the public. I'm originally from New York, but I do have strong ties to the Hudson County area. I do have a lot of family that originated from this area. I'm currently a detective with the Division of Criminal Justice. Prior to that, I worked as a contractor for the federal government. I hold both an undergraduate and a graduate degree in this subject area, as well as various certifications and certificates.
Okay. Tell us about these initiatives, and we want our audience to know what to be aware of and what exactly you're doing. And I would like you also, Jim, to tell how important it is. I know from law enforcement that you work together, that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing with regard to the different law enforcement agencies. So,
sure. No, absolutely. That's great. That's a great point. Through the Anti-Money Laundering Task Force, we had an opportunity to meet with a lot of different agencies across the state, and we had a chance to see what crimes were showing up in their jurisdictions. And the one thing we learned was the same crimes that we're seeing, they're seeing as well. And after having an opportunity to meet with different victims, we learned that they all said the same thing. Had they known how prevalent these crimes are, they may not have been fooled.
Janet, a lot of it, how do you get the to get the leads? Where does it come from? Where does the leads come from about these different schemes? From people calling up or?
Well, the leads are coming from the referrals. And something that we've noticed is that there is a belief that there's a large underreporting in this type of crimes because people are, embarrassed. They're embarrassed that they fell for this type of crime because there's a perception that people that fall for these types of crimes are perhaps uneducated or lonely, and nobody wants to be a victim to these crimes. So the statistics are blurred because we don't know, because there is the belief that there is an underreporting. So for example, as far as these phone and internet scams go, some of the statistics from the FBI say that it's a $220 million loss per year.
Wow.
And but they justify those statistics by saying that's probably underreporting it because people aren't reporting these. But the best place if someone falls victims to these types of crimes is first report it to your local police department. And that's another issue. People don't know where to report it. If it's an IRS scam, reach out to the IRS. They have a special email address set up for these types of crimes. Same with the FBI, the IC3. Go there to report these type of crimes. But if you know nowhere else, call your local police department and they'll tell you where to go.
It's funny you said about the IRS. I know myself, a lot of people get phone calls. This is the IRS, you owe money, blah, blah, blah. So, and yet it sounds like that it's an actual line with a lot of people, that's an office. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's pretty organized, correct?
Absolutely, and these are one of the crimes that we wanted to talk to you about today was IRS scams. And these are prevalent now because we have the IRS deadline coming up. April 15th is coming up. So, you know, the criminals are always one step ahead. The fraudsters are always thinking what are going to grab people. So the IRS scam is going to grab people. So you're going to get a telephone call saying, hi, this is the IRS. Your taxes are overdue from the last filing year. And if you don't pay them right away, we're going to send a police officer to your house to arrest you. And people are falling for it. You know, it's emotional. You get a phone call, you're going to be arrested. Taxes are confusing. Let's face it. When you go, everybody gets anxiety going to the accountant. And then if you find out several months later that maybe there was a problem, it's believable. Perhaps your accountant did something. What's not believable and what people need to be aware of is that the IRS doesn't call you on the telephone. They'll send you letters if there's an issue. And that's important for people in the community to be aware of. Also, if there's an issue, the IRS isn't going to demand payment in iTunes gift cards or via credit card. I mean, you laugh, but it's...
No, I never heard. That's something I never heard of.
Yeah, I mean, but people fall for it. And I think it's that stress being put there on the spot at the moment, feeling like you did something wrong if you're a law-abiding citizen. You know, you've never come across this before and you're going to be arrested, so you do what's asked of you.
Well, it is interesting that, and I know they target a lot of times the senior citizen segment of our population. And in our county, we have a lot of senior citizens. When we come back from the commercial break, maybe you can even give people some tips. Do you go out and meet and talk to different groups and all that? I think that's important, and make people aware of. A lot of times they're not watching TV, they're not hearing it, but they need to hear it live from you guys. I'm your Freeholder Anthony Romano. After this commercial break, we'll continue this very important discussion we're having with the Office of the Attorney General. Thank you.
The Jersey City Medical Center. You know it for its award-winning life-saving ambulance service. It's also your health hub, with health and wellness locations staffed with certified professionals all through Hudson County. The Jersey City Medical Center, here to help you with your healthy, here when you need us the most. The Jersey City Medical Center. Visit us on the net to learn more. Jersey City Medical Center, Robert Wood Johnson, Barnabas Health Facility. Let's be healthy together.
We have to be able to police ourselves because we don't want anybody to tarnish our badge.
When internal affairs complaints are not handled properly, the public may believe that most officers commit crimes, when in fact that's not true. Most officers are professional.
If complaints aren't taken properly and the community that we serve doesn't have a trust in the police department, I mean, there has to be legitimacy. If the community doesn't trust the police, how could we effectively serve them? And by having a really comprehensive internal affairs unit that handles the complaints properly and people have trust in the system, it enables us to do our entire job as a police department much better.
We need the community as much as they need us. So that citizen that has lost trust in the community could be a very important witness for us tomorrow.
Hudson TMA reminds you that a helmet can only protect your head if you wear it. Take a tip from Elizabeth and Xander.
So just think of your helmet as part of your gear. You don't see a soccer player without shin guards.
You don't see a basketball player without shoes.
You don't ride your bike without your helmet. It's part of the gear.
Let's take a look at proper helmet fit. The size of a helmet is very important. It should fit comfortably without rocking from side to side. The helmet should fit level on your head and low on the forehead, no more than 1 or 2 finger widths above the eyebrow. Adjust the lengths of the straps so that the buckle is centered under the chin. Side straps should be adjusted so that they form a V shape under and slightly in front of the ears. Lock the slider if possible. Buckle the chin strap and tighten it until snug. No more than 1 or 2 fingers should fit under the strap. Lastly, make sure the helmet is secure and doesn't rock back and forth. If a big yawn doesn't pull the helmet down on your head, tighten the chin strap.
Welcome back to Stick at Night. Let's continue this very important discussion with our members of the Office of the Attorney General. Continue, Jim, what you were saying with references.
Sure. One of the scams that shows up on everyone's radar is the grandparent scam. Unfortunately, as time goes on, the perpetrators are becoming even more sophisticated, so the pool of victims has grown to where we now refer to it as the friends and family emergency scam. As the name suggests, what they're doing is they're exploiting victims to make them believe that a loved one, more often than not a grandson or a granddaughter, is in a very dangerous or dire situation and they need financial assistance immediately. In order to pull this off, they're making them think that something has to be done right away. And what they commonly do is the minute they pick up the phone, their loved one is crying on the phone. So they do that for 2 reasons. One, it disguises their voice, and 2, it makes for a very uncomfortable situation. So the victim is willing to do anything to make that situation go away, and more often than not, it involves the movement of funds immediately, as well as the promise not to tell anyone so the situation doesn't get out there and there's not further embarrassment.
What's the conviction rate here?
See that? I'm not entirely sure. I do know that there's been tremendous success in combating these.
In apprehension?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. But that does vary across different jurisdictions.
Okay, another type of scam there, Janet.
Well, another similar type of scam that involves emotions beyond money, and that's really what these scams are about. Some of them are just about money, but the grandparent scam, like Jim was describing, and also romance scams, which is very, I hate to use the word popular, but it's very popular and you see them, and that's because of the prevalence of dating apps. You know, there's nothing new about romance scams. This goes back to 7th century literature where people are deluding each other to believe they're in love with each other. But now it's so much easier to do with the internet because you just log onto your dating website and there's hundreds and thousands of people for you to choose from. So what's happening is these fraudsters are going on the internet, choosing from among the many dating sites that there are, creating a fake profile. This fake profile usually involves an older person who's successful, a lot of times lives outside of the country, and living outside of the country is key. Well, it's key because after a while you're going to ask this person you're in a relationship with to meet you in person and see who this is. But that's a key. They're either in the military or they're working out of the country, and for that reason they can't meet with you. And then they begin to develop a relationship, and these fraudsters are very good at looking at your profile and searching information about you to find coincidences, something that would make the victim feel that they have a real connection with this person. And they'll point out these connections to give it an air that this relationship was meant to be. Wow. And then, yes, and then very quickly they'll turn around and declare their love for the person. And you know, these scams are not as uncommon as you think. They're very common in community of senior citizens where someone might be widowed for a period of time and they're very lonely after having been married for, you know, any number of years. Sure. And is susceptible to this, is susceptible to partnership. So they'll use that declaration of love to then make the ask for the money. And they'll do it in one of 2 ways. Either they'll ask for money directly for some reason, medical issues with passports or visas, or they will say that they're having these problems. I really want to come see you, but there's a problem with my passport and I need $5,000 right away. I really would love to come, except for I have this emergency doctor's visit. And the victim will volunteer the money. And
Really?
yeah. And
Is there a lot of, they have a lot of success rate in getting these people to give that money then, huh?
there is, yeah, that number I gave before, 210, 100 million in 2016 is the FBI's number.
That's unbelievable.
Romance scams alone. I mean, this is a $50 billion fraud per year, but that's, romance scams is huge. And unlike these other scams where it's a one-off, there's a phone call, your grandchild's in trouble, you send the money, it's over. This continues because the person is now vested and wants to see the partner and will continue sending money until they figure this out.
Now, how do you make apprehensions overseas? You can't, correct?
Not our agency in particular. Other agencies, of course, can, and that's the benefit of working with the Anti-Money Laundering Task Force and these types of intergovernmental agencies. But these do take place within the country, within New Jersey, in Hudson County as well.
Is there a lot of these scams in Hudson County?
Absolutely.
So you get a lot of feedback and data to prove that?
Really, yes.
Do you go out and speak to different groups? And how do you get the message out to people?
And this is it, by doing this type of work. Like I said, the genesis of it was some of the talks we did for the Anti-Money Laundering Task Force. However, as we did those presentations to our partner agencies and some partners we have in the private sector, such as the bank security industry, there was questions, and the conversations evolved. The questions evolved. The questions were about romance scams first, and then the grandparent scam, and it's consistently evolving. And we're happy to go out to speak to anybody, because as Jim had said before, the studies show that if people had known that these type of scams existed, they might not have fell prey to them.
That's amazing to think that, especially in this day and age, that it's not out there, that people are aware of these things that are happening. And there's so many, as you said, you're talking about the romance, you're talking about the grandfather scams, the grandmother scams, and also I hear all the time too, for the computer. Give us access to your computer, we're going to clean it. And you have a glitch, but in reality they're hacking into your computer.
Absolutely.
Do you also handle that? Would that be considered a scam in your area? Or
Absolutely.
No?
Yes, absolutely. Our bureau also covers cyber crimes, and that would fall under their jurisdiction.
That's the hotbed.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Everything's
the hotbed,
becoming
cybercrime, right? Especially with the hacking coming from Russia and China. And so you've also get involved in that.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And I think part of the issue is something you said, that people feel like it's not going to happen to them.
Yes, so there is something called an optimism bias. It's where people believe that negative things aren't going to happen to them. They're not going to get sick. Their loved one won't get sick. They don't have to put on a seatbelt. Stuff like accidents that happens to someone else. They never think that they're going to be in that situation. And they also have a distorted perception as to who is actually being victimized. As my colleague said earlier, it's the belief that this is someone who's gullible or unintelligent. When the fact of the matter, that's not the case. As much as 1 in 5 households fall victim to various types of scams.
Wow, 1 in 5?
All the time, yes.
Wow, is that statewide, Hudson County, or?
That's the numbers that's coming out at a federal level. So I'm not sure if
So anyways, that's the state of New Jersey.
That would be the country.
that would be the country as a whole. So there may be
yeah.
certain states that drive that number up, but as a whole, it's about 1 in 5.
Well, that's amazing. Okay, when we come back from our break, we'll continue our discussion, which is very important for our residents to know about these scams, so we can do some kind of prevention. I'm your freeholder, Anthony Romano. We'll be back right after this break.
Voting by mail has never been easier. Just follow these steps to ensure your vote will be counted. Open your envelope. You will find your certificate, return envelope, and official ballot. When casting your ballot, use only a pencil, black, or blue ink, not red. Completely fill in the oval to the right of each selection. When writing in, do not repeat a name printed on the ballot. If torn or damaged, your vote will not be counted. Fold your ballot and place it in the pocket of the certificate before sealing it with the adhesive strip. Do not detach the strip and paper from the certificate. Fill out the required information on the certificate and don't forget to sign. If you are not mailing or delivering your ballot in person, make sure both you and the bearer of the ballot sign your name and address on the certificate and return envelope. After that, just place it in the mailbox and your vote will be counted. For more information, you can visit our website at www.hudsoncountyclerk.org or www.hudsoncountyNJ.org.
Introducing the MyJCMC app, powered by Practice Unite. The free MyJCMC app puts the power of healthcare at your fingertips. Go to the concierge for access to referrals, scheduling, and appointments, see emergency room wait times, and get directions to Jersey City Medical Center health locations. Read the latest JCMC news through their social media feed, find a doctor, and more. The MyJCMC app. We belong to you.
Hudson TMA reminds you that a bicycle is considered a vehicle. When you ride a bike, you must obey the rules of the road.
Ride single file in the same direction as traffic. Obey traffic signs and signals. Signal your turns and look behind you before you turn. And always stay alert.
Welcome back to Stick at Night. I'm your freeholder, Anthony Romano. Let's continue this discussion about the different scams that could affect our residents in our county and are definitely affecting our residents, I should say, in Hoboken and Jersey City, which have large populations. We should be aware of this, so continue.
Thank you.
Sure. So one of the other major scams that we're seeing is employment scams, simply because everyone wants a job, right? And if you don't have a job, you want a job.
How does that work in employment scam?
So essentially what it is these perpetrators will create these companies that are intended to resemble a legitimate company. Maybe there's a character change in it, maybe there's a letter, something that the general public wouldn't realize if they didn't look that carefully at it.
Right, like Hostess Cake become one S instead of two S's, example, correct?
Absolutely, and then they'll create these very generic positions, something that's overly vague that so many different people could possibly be eligible for.
Customer service rep or something.
Exactly, and then they'll troll these online job boards, and they'll reach out to somebody, and they'll offer them an opportunity to work for their company, and it always involves the movement of money right away.
But how if I'm applying for a job, in other words, I have to pay to get that job? Is that how it works?
In some cases, you can. What they'll often do is they'll award the job right away. And we all know that's generally not how it works. If someone approaches you about a job and offers you a job right away.
And all that, background check.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps. So one of the things that we commonly see, people will be approached about a job, a lot of times involving some sort of home aid, whether in a cleaning service capacity or in a babysitting capacity. And they'll be told that the person that they're working for is relocating to the area, sometimes from a different state, other times from a different country, and that they'll receive their first 2 weeks' pay. And then once they receive that pay, they're then to call the supposed employer. So the check will arrive. They'll call and say, I received it. They'll then be told the checks for a larger amount than what you're supposed to get paid, deposit that check into your account, and then take the remaining balance. So let's just say, for the sake of simplifying things, they receive a check for $5,000. They'll take it, they'll deposit the check, they'll keep $1,000, they'll then take the remaining $4,000 and either deposit into another account at the perpetrator's direction, or they'll wire the money somewhere. And then what will happen was, a couple of days later, the bank will notify them that the check was counterfeit, and instead of being plus $1,000, they're now in the whole $4,000.
Wow. Wow.
And I think what's important is we've been talking about a lot of the money scams that involve victims sending money, but it's not just money, it's also personal identifiers, like your social security number. So these, the IRS scams also involve IRS agents calling and telling you have a refund, and they say, but just to verify, please give me your social security number. There's something that's happening in New Jersey right now, and the state police issued a warning earlier this month, which involves phone calls from a number which looks like a state police number. It is a state police number that's been spoofed, and a state police officer is calling you, asking you to verify your social security number because they've received complaints regarding your particular social security number. Once you've given that personal identifiers, they can now apply for credit cards, apply for loans in your name, or even if the fraudster is not that sophisticated, they can sell that information to someone else to do that.
Black web.
Exactly, dark web. So that information is just as valuable as money.
And a lot of times you don't realize you're giving that information up. We all see these clips on YouTube where they get a call and the person plays along with the person just to kind of mess with them. we urge people not to do that, because you don't realize the longer you're on the phone, you give up information that can then be used against you. And also, it does establish that that phone number is real, and then it could be spoofed to get someone else in your family at a later time.
It's amazing. Now you mentioned too about cybercrime. What about cyber that you guys do?
Well, these are, I mean, that is part of our unit. These are all considered cyber crimes as well. There's a lot of mesh between the financial and cyber, because
That's
everything.
what I should have clarified that, more with do you guys cross into the computer area?
Absolutely, absolutely. We do both. Financial and computer crimes intersect, and that's why it's so wonderful to have this task force across the state to address some of these issues.
Okay, so you have a statewide task force.
That's correct, in anti-money laundering. And one of the things that Jim touched upon was urging people not to play along, but we also have several tips for people. One is, I think it's a safe assumption that it's a scam. You know, we're all receiving those phone calls every day from numbers we don't recognize. And, you know, every day we're being faced with scams, so we have to be vigilant. And one thing we tell, don't send money to people you don't know. You know, and in terms of the grandchild scam, I believe, Jim, you had said verify.
Yes, be prepared. Have questions in place that your loved one would know the answer to. And also, don't be afraid to ask questions where there is no right answer. Let's say, for example, you get a call and you think it's your granddaughter, Sally. If you know Sally doesn't have any grandkids, maybe ask the caller, are the kids okay? And then Sally would obviously, if it is really Sally, would say, well, there are no grandkids, you know that. Mm-hmm. But if the perpetrator then says they're fine, no one else is hurt, you know there's something else at play.
Well, so that's basically your three main scams though, right?
Well, there's so many. Every year they publish a top 10 list, and it could go on and on. Yeah. But we wanted to highlight
Where could our audience find out about, like, where could they look up on your website?
On our website,
which is, tell our audience.
The Attorney General's, New Jersey State Attorney General's office. But the FBI also has a website. It's ic3.gov, which details some of the scams, and you can also report the scams there. And we urge people to report, because, as I said, these numbers are really, we believe them to be underestimates, because nobody wants to report them.
Oh, without a doubt. It's embarrassing for a lot of people.
It's humiliating, it's embarrassing, it's emotional. It's not just a crime that takes your money, but it hurts psychologically as well. But it's important we know about them, because that's the only way we could prevent them, by getting the word out, speaking to the community, and letting them know what is prevalent.
And trust your instincts. People tell us all the time, I should have known. I should have known right away that something wasn't right.
Without a doubt, yeah.
If it's too good to be true, unfortunately, it's normally not true.
So I'm assuming that you're inundated every day with so much work.
We are, and it feels like it's never ending, and we get calls every day, and we do our best, certainly, to tackle each of the problems. But like I said, prevention is really the best way with these types of scams.
Do different government officials work with you guys? I mean, for example, the mayors or the county executives or the committee, this way to get the message out. I think that's basically here too. You're doing your end of it with the apprehension and the prosecution, and you're also trying to do the education, and that's a lot. And hopefully that you get help, obviously, besides law enforcement, but that's a duty of elected officials to get the message out, I would think.
Absolutely, and we're fortunate enough to have elected officials such as yourself who are interested in these topics and want to get the word out to their constituents, to the community at large about the importance of this. And we're always open to any opportunity where we can speak to the community about these type of frauds to prepare people.
Well, I hope to talk to our head of senior citizens in Hoboken or in Jersey City to somehow maybe get a community meeting where you can address these concerns, because we do have a large number. This is probably one of the biggest areas of retirees and senior citizens, especially the people that were born and raised here. I got to thank you both for coming and for all the wonderful information that you've given us. We need you to continue the great work that you do, and I know you're both dedicated, and which is important. And hopefully we're going to get these wonderful people back again. I'm your freeholder, Anthony Romano. We're with Stick at Nite, and we'll see you again soon.